Okay. I'm gonna assume this is everybody that needs to be in attendance. I'm gonna go ahead and bring this proceeding into session, starting with the statement of claim. One moment, let me grab my clipboard. All right, got it here. On December 5th, 2020, the plaintiff was met with excessive and deadly force from Thomas Metzger during an altercation with the police. This use of deadly force was disproportionate to the actions of the plaintiff, especially when taking into account the fact that Martin Julio Perez Cruz Rodriguez did not brandish a weapon at all during the interaction. We wish to recover damages in line with the physical pain and suffering of the plaintiff caused by the use of excessive force. Okay. Um, Relief sought is going to be $25,000 in general damages and 75 grand in punitive. All right. And there's evidence listed. All this, that, and the third. Is everybody ready to talk about what happened?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
Not you're not defense.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, Your Honor. We're ready
Right.
to go.
All right. Let's go ahead and have opening statement. Prosecution, or I'm sorry, plaintiff.
Yes, Your Honor. This is my first trial, so bear with me if for any evidence of such. People of the court, today we'll hear the case of my client, who we'll refer to as Mr. Rodriguez for convenience, who was shot by Assistant Chief Thomas Metzger while unarmed. That was the end result of an encounter with the
Objection, Your
police.
Honor. Facts not in actually directly contradicts the facts and evidence. I know it's atypical to object during opening statements, but if we were to treat them like closing statements, the evidence that was supplied by the plaintiffs themselves indicate that Mr. Rodriguez actually was armed with a Class 1 firearm and, in fact, pled guilty to a charge of criminal possession of a Class 1
Yeah,
firearm.
restate your opening.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'll reword that.
Restate your opening. Start over.
Yep. Today we had a case of my client, Mr. Rodriguez, who was shot by Assistant Chief Thomas Metzger while he had no weapon in his hand. That was the end result of an encounter with the PD on the 5th of December 2020, during which Mr. Rodriguez tackled Officer Scott Ripley, was then tased by Officer Ridley, and was then shot by Assistant Chief Thomas Metzger, who had only just arrived upon scene. At no point, and this is supported by the police report and evidence, and will be further supported by witness testimonies today, at no point was Mr. Rodriguez brandishing a weapon, nor did he threaten a police with any concealed weapon that was later found on his person. We believe this use of lethal force against an individual without a weapon in their hand is a use of excessive force on the part of Assistant Chief Thomas Metzger. Please note that the injuries of Mr. Rodriguez are explained in detail in medical reports ending in 27, also in evidence. Mr. Rodriguez accepts that he was breaking the law at the time and does not pretend otherwise, but believes that the lethal force from Thomas Metzger was excessive and unnecessary when he was tackling without any kind of weapon in his hand. Thus, today he seeks damages for the physical trauma of the event and punitive damages specifically to discourage future shootings of those who do not have weapons in their hands. In an attempt to justify this behaviour, the defence is cited and is likely to mention a past case ruled upon by Coyote on the 28th of May 2020, titled Rami El Rahman versus LSPD et al. That case is extremely different to this case and cannot be directly compared. This is primarily because that particular case ruled in favour of the PD using lethal force against a criminal shooting a beanbag shotgun, a less lethal weapon at police. That ruling was in favour of the PD because of this, and specified, as confirmed by Coyote himself on the docket on 17th of December, that the PD can use +1 level of force without it being deemed excessive. Today we will learn about levels of force through testimony from Assistant Chief Thomas Metzger himself, and we will argue that an unarmed tackle is at least 2 levels of force below lethal force, which was used by Thomas Metzger. And as such, the actions of Thomas Metzger should be treated as excessive force, and Mr. Rodriguez should be awarded damages as a result. We will also ask for Assistant Chief Thomas Metzger's shooting of the unarmed Mr. Rodriguez to be considered through an objective reasonableness test, which can be summarized as, given the facts known at the time and an understanding that decisions are made in a split second, would a similarly trained and experienced officer respond in a similar fashion? And specifically, raise the query of why the other police officer on scene, Officer Ridley, chose to tase rather than shoot Mr. Rodriguez, who, again, did not have a weapon in his hands.
Objection, Your Honor, on the grounds of speculation as to Ridley's thought process. Ridley was not named as a witness by the plaintiffs and is not here for questioning, so I'd like that stricken.
A rebuttal would be that it states in the police report that, and the medical report supports the use of a taser by Ridley. It's not speculating as to his thoughts, but confirming his actions that are supported by the evidence provided.
I'm gonna sustain on the grounds that Ridley is not indeed here to actually obtain his thought process during it, but the evidence in and of itself is in the report, so we'll leave that there. But that statement is stricken from the record.
May I ask which particular portion and from where you would like me to restart?
Anything having to do with Ridley.
Understood. Understood. So as a final point, it's interesting to note that Thomas Metzger is not being represented by the District Attorney's Office in this matter.
Objection, Your Honor, goes to attorney-client privileged information as to representation.
Sustained.
Understood. That will be the conclusion of my opening statement. Thank you.
Wow. I'm just going to say, when Benjamin Crane says that your opening statement's too long, it's way the fuck too long.
Hey, don't address him. Or have you open a statement. Don't do that again.
All right, I'm just trying to help the babies out, that's all.
Do that after. Let's not do that right now.
All right, let me know when you're ready for me, Your Honor.
I'm ready.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor, people of the court. Today, the plaintiff's going to attempt to sell this court the story of a tragedy. However, the only tragedy which occurred on December 6, 2020 was the plaintiff's own ignorance and idiocy of tackling police officers. On December 6, 2020, police responded to the scene of an armed robbery at the Vangelico's jewelry store. Wei Wong, who is a witness today, and 3 other unknown suspects smashed the glass inside and began to ride bicycles away from the scene. Wei Wong was ultimately incapacitated and brought into custody. However, as the police attempted to secure the scene, the plaintiff, Martin Julio Perz Cruz Rodriguez, referred to as Mr. Rodriguez by his own counsel, an individual who is flagged in the MDT as violent, an individual who is flagged in the MDT as gang affiliated, an individual who has attempted to murder 1 or more government employees on at least 8 separate occasions, and an individual who has been found to be criminally possessing a Class 1 firearm on 33 prior occasions. Oh, also an individual who has resisted arrest 20 or more times in the past. Interjected himself into this ongoing police situation and interfered with their ability to secure this scene. After being asked to leave the first time, the plaintiff left and then returned to the scene, began tackling Officer Scott Ridley, who at the time was the only officer on scene, knocking him to the ground, knocking him downstairs, and leaving him vulnerable and open to attack from Mr. Rodriguez as well as others. Despite being instructed to cease and desist, the plaintiff continued this conduct and continued to tackle officers, knocking them to the ground, leaving them prone and vulnerable. Officers at that time legally and justly escalated their use of force in accordance with the threat that they were faced. There is no misuse of force here. There is no Fourth Amendment violation. There is simply a cash grab by a criminal interfering with a police scene. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Crane. As usual, very colorful opening. Let's get into the first witness. Please, plaintiff, call your first witness.
Assistant Chief Thomas Metzger.
Metzger. I will swear you in. Metzger. Give me a moment to
Yep, you're good.
get my papers sorted out here.
Jesus. You got enough paper, Buck?
Yeah, I take a lot of notes.
It's very rustly paper.
Yeah, it's fine. Let's see. You, Metzger, we are on direct examination. Okay, you may begin.
You need to swear me in,
Hello.
or
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
Son of a bitch. You probably must tell the truth to the best of your knowledge under the penalties of perjury. So help you, Coil.
so help me, Coil.
Before we do get into it, I'm gonna find that this matter is rather a serious one. No outbursts. If you outburst, I will hold you in contempt of court. This is your only warning. I definitely want to hear this and analyze the situation. This seems to be a very critical matter, and I need to be able to take it all in. Okay, Metzger, you may begin.
Hello, please provide your full legal name for the record.
Thomas Metzger.
What is your profession?
I'm a law enforcement officer.
What is your title within your profession?
Assistant Chief of Police.
What is your length of service within the police department as a whole, and more specifically as Assistant Chief of Police?
2.5 years and approximately 1 year.
Do you know the levels of force?
Yes, I wrote the SOPs. I think I would know.
Have you taught the levels of force?
Yes, I have taught the levels of force.
Please, could you take the court through the entire levels of force, preferably with examples?
I will only give you the levels of force. There are 5 levels of force. Level 1, officer presence. Level 2, verbalization. Level 3, empty hand control. Level 4, less lethal methods. And level 5 is lethal force. However, there are many things that govern use of force, not just the 5 levels.
Would you? Oh shit. Go ahead.
So, just to confirm, you would not be willing to provide examples.
It is, and I will defer to the Chief Justice here. The police department does not typically provide SOPs during court cases.
Yeah.
Your Honor, if I may, the levels of force and examples of them are essential in interpreting the past ruling by Coyote, which is part of the defense used today.
Crane, be quiet.
I was going to assert an objection, Your Honor.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead. Now insert your objection.
In that case, based upon that description, I'm going to object not only as a general objection insofar as the SOPs are concerned, but I'm also going to object on the basis of the fact that counsel is attempting to use the witness to create a material fact, which is for this court to determine and is not the province of testimony.
Yeah. Ask you questions. SOPs won't be handed out. That's just point blank period. That's what it is.
Understood.
Metzger, you said present. The first one was presence. Where
Presence.
was open hand?
It's level 3.
4 was less than lethal.
Yes. I can give examples. I'm happy to give examples. I'm just not going to delve into... But I'm not going to just willy-nilly continue on. You got to ask your questions.
Yeah. And then Number 2 was like actual commands, right?
Verbalization. Yes.
Actual command.
Understood. May I continue, Your Honor?
Yeah.
Okay. Could you, in your professional opinion, confirm the level of force you would assign to an individual engaging in tackling while not holding a weapon in their hands?
That is a very complex question that a lot of calculus goes into.
Okay. In reference to this particular incident, what level of force did you place upon the actions of Mr. Rodriguez?
Personally, I used lethal force, as we all know. It's already in statement of fact.
For clarification, I'm asking about the actions of Mr. Rodriguez. Are you stating that the actions of Mr. Rodriguez meets the boundaries of lethal force?
Are you asking if I think that lethal force was necessary to control the situation? Is that the question, or
I'm asking what you think Mr. Rodriguez was doing, not your response. What
he was
Mr. Rodriguez
assaulting
was
and battering a police officer, as well as his accomplice, who is not here.
And where would you believe that falls upon the levels of force?
Well, it falls between 3 and 5, depending on the severity of the attack.
Between 3 and 5, understood.
Yes. Not exactly sure what you're asking.
That's all right. One moment. Do you, in your professional opinion, believe that the unarmed tackling of Mr. Rodriguez can be put on level of force 4, the same level as less lethal weapons such as tasers or beanbag shotguns or even nightsticks?
Can you say that again, please?
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered.
I would rebut by saying it's similar, but it's definitely not an exact question that's been asked and answered.
I'm gonna overrule Crane just so I can hear the question one more time.
You want me to repeat?
Yes, please.
Certainly. Do you, in your professional opinion, believe that unarmed tackling, such as what was done by Mr. Rodriguez, can be put on the same level as a taser, beanbag shotgun, or blunt weapon like a nightstick?
Are you asking if I think it's on the same level?
Yes.
It can be on the same level.
Was it in this particular instance?
Yes.
Why is that?
Do you want my laundry list of why he was shot?
Certainly, if you're offering.
Okay, well, buckle up, sir. First of all, multiple officers attempted to contact Ridley, who asked for backup. He was intermittently responding after calling for backup, which indicates A, he's under attack, B, he's being held up, or he's having some sort of medical issue. 2, Ridley already exhausted level 4, less than lethal use of force against 2 individuals that were attacking him. Once again, I state 2 individuals attacking him. As myself and Casterman rolled up on the scene, I observed 2 people literally tackle him. They got up and charged him again, in which he deployed his taser against the female, and then Mr. Rodriguez tackled him. 4, I attempted to give an advisory that he would be shot if he carried out this action. He disobeyed that. Let's see, what number are we on? 6 now? I had reasonable suspicion to believe that he was armed.
Hold on, before you go into that one, did you repeat your last one?
That there were 2 individuals attacking.
Something about you had warned him or some shit.
Yes, I made a clear statement, or was in the process of making a statement. I actually don't know which one it is, but I know it's in the report that I did attempt to warn him that he would be shot, or they would be shot if they attacked the officer again. As I already stated, less than lethal clearly wasn't working, and all efforts had been exhausted at this point. Let's see, 6. Buck, you really fucked me up there.
Sorry, I think it was crucial for me to actually hear you say that you told him I would shoot you.
I'll note on that, I don't actually have to give an advisement before I use lethal force against somebody.
But you did.
It's just preferred. Yes, I attempted to.
Okay.
Let's see. The geometry of the scene was in play there. Mr. Rodriguez was in 20 feet of myself and Officer Casterman before we engaged him with this firearm, which I would like to note. If you don't know what the 20-foot rule is, roughly if you're within 20 feet of me, you can close the distance before I can either A, draw my weapon, or B, engage you with my weapon and attack me if you have with your hands or whatever. I can keep going. There's a lot of calculus that went into why he was shot.
If you'd like to continue, feel free. Although one question was raised during what you just said. Do you believe that you finished your statement, "Stop where you will be shot," before shooting?
I believe so. Yes. So the report says I did.
Do you believe that?
Yeah.
what the
If another
report said, do
officer
you
is
believe
stating that
that?
I did, then yeah, I would believe that I did. It's kind of happened
Okay.
very quickly.
Understood.
Oh, also, I'd like to say there is clear, reasonable suspicion that he was armed. Also, adding 8 or 9 now, all the suspects involved had just committed a violent felony and robbed Evangelical jewelry store, with at least one of the suspects armed with a Class 2 firearm, the other is armed with Class 1s.
Oh, was Mr. Rodriguez charged with that?
He pled guilty to the robbery?
Yep. Was he
I don't
charged with
believe he
anything to do
did.
with robbery?
He should
So
have been
would it
charged
be
with
fair to
accessory to
say-
robbery, but he wasn't.
So he wasn't charged with the robbery, though.
No, but I did not process him. That's a.
But he wasn't charged with the robbery.
He should have been.
That's your opinion. I'm
It's not
asking
my
about the
opinion,
facts.
it's a
Objection, Your
stat.
Honor.
That's a fact.
Argumentative, asked and answered. I could go on, but I don't think I need to.
Objection to argumentative. I'll take that one. It's gonna be sustained. Please, continue.
Understood.
Do you have more questions about use of force and why a violent felon was shot attacking a cop?
Would it be possible to give some examples of level 3 of force?
Level like me like punching you or tackling you or hitting you with a
Oh, so
baton?
tackling is level 3.
When cops use it, it can be, yes. But if you're attacking an officer, we escalate. I want to clarify something. You understand that there's no such thing as we use one level only higher than a person, right? We use the amount of force necessary to control the situation. Just want to make that clear. There's nowhere in the PD that we say you only use one level higher. A rule of thumb is that we use one level higher, but that doesn't mean we don't continue to escalate if criminals don't comply. I just want to make that very clear.
So, are you aware of the ruling brought forth by Justice
Yes, I'm
Coyote?
aware, but as the person who wrote the police SOPs, I'm telling you that officers are, by law, allowed to defend themselves or others in a threat of bodily harm. If I watch multiple people tackling one of my officers and they do not comply with non-lethal force, and they don't comply when they're told they're going to get shot, what do you think is going to happen?
Understood.
Should I pull my phone out and pull up a GIF for you?
I don't
It's not
think
gonna
there's
be
any need
necessary.
for this, Mr. Metzger. Now we've gone over the levels of force as sort of a general concept, I'm going to ask you about specifics for the event. I would ask everyone in the court to refer to the police report within evidence for the upcoming questions.
Where's that at?
It's on
This
the
is
very
on the docket,
first, it's on the
Your
very
Honor.
first bit of the docket under evidence. Please let me know when that's pulled up.
All right, I got it.
So, Mr. Metzger, were you on duty on 5th of December 2020?
Yes.
Were you involved in the incident described in the police report?
Yes, I was.
Please, could you confirm the location of the events described in the police report?
Evangelical jewelry store, and then I believe is on Vespucci. Or somewhere. It was on one of the main avenues running west to east.
The police report states that...
You understand, it's been like 3 weeks since this happened, okay? I was also on foot and on a bicycle. I was on a patrol vehicle with GPS.
With respect, Mr. Metzger, I am attempting to ask a question.
And I'm giving you my answer.
As I was saying, the police report states, and I quote, "Shortly after, Metzger shot and incapacitated Rodriguez." How shortly, as in upon your arrival, did you shoot Mr. Rodriguez?
Within 10 seconds. Actually, probably within
Understood.
5 or 6, yeah. Depends on what you consider arrival was, because I was able to view the scene for at least 10 seconds before rolling up.
Understood. Did you at any point see a weapon in the hands of Mr. Rodriguez?
I did not.
For clarification, did you use lethal force on Mr. Rodriguez?
I mean, this is like in the report, asked and answered, isn't it?
It is, but I'll let it go on clarification. Did you
Yes,
shoot his
I
ass?
shot. Yes, I shot his ass. Casterman
Alright.
did as well. Bless you.
Excuse me.
May I ask why Mr. Casterman's shooting isn't included in the police report?
I didn't write the police report. You'd have to
What?
ask the officer that wrote the police report.
Understood. Were you the only officer on scene at the point that you shot the unarmed Mr. Rodriguez?
No, there were 2 other officers on scene.
Did the tackled officer, Ridley, ever explain why he chose not to use lethal force, unlike you?
Objection calls for hearsay.
My rebuttal is I'm very specifically asking, did Ridley ever explain?
Yeah.
I'm not asking about Ridley's thoughts. I'm not asking about any kind of hearsay. I'm asking about direct communication.
Yeah, my objection is that he's directly asking for an out-of-court statement made by someone who's not here to testify. That is the definition of hearsay.
Yeah, if Ridley were here to actually be able to speak on his own behalf on what he said to Metzger, I would allow it through, but I am going to sustain on hearsay.
Understood. Given the facts known at the time, with an understanding that decisions are made in a split second, would you, as Assistant Chief, expect a similarly trained and experienced officer to respond to an unarmed tackler with lethal force?
If in the same situation, absolutely.
Do you recall any encounters with Mr. Rodriguez prior to this incident?
No.
Have you ever discussed anything
Hold on,
related?
pause. What was that last question? I got the answer.
Do you recall any encounters with Mr. Rodriguez prior to this incident?
You said no. Okay, go ahead.
Have you ever discussed anything related to the criminal history of Mr. Rodriguez with him prior to this incident?
Him as in Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
I don't know. I deal with so many people. I don't think so.
Okay. Perhaps. Were you aware of Mr. Rodriguez's criminal history during the time of the incident?
No, but legally, I'm not allowed to use somebody's criminal history against them.
This is a civil hearing. You can.
With respect, Your Honor, his criminal history has been included as evidence.
Okay. All right. I'll continue.
And
on.
was mentioned.
Either way, I have no way of knowing who an individual is when they're masked up like every other individual in the city. So,
understood. So, did you have any reason to assume that the individual was armed?
absolutely.
On what basis?
That this was a jewelry store robbery. The other 3 individuals had firearms on him, one of which was a class 2. I had plenty of reasonable suspicion to believe that he was also armed, especially when he's assaulting and battering a police officer with one of the individuals who is armed.
The police report makes mention of Mr. Rodriguez in a delivery truck.
Mm-hmm.
Do you recall that?
I believe so. It was told to leave the scene, if I recall. So there were essentially there was 3 at the jewelry store originally. He ended up being a 4th involved individual.
Oh, so to clarify, do you believe Mr. Rodriguez was involved in the jewelry store?
Absolutely.
But please, can you explain how that works with your previous answer? Just perhaps to
because you don't have to be at the site to be involved. Why would a uninvolved individual, quote unquote, delivering, quote unquote, suddenly get involved in assault and batter a police officer and
So
assist
to clarify,
3 people trying to escape the police? I mean, what reasonable person would do that? That's
okay,
not already involved.
So to clarify, you
also I observed them on the radio throughout this entire process.
So you observed. Okay, that's understood. One moment. So to clarify, careful, Mr. Rodriguez.
Hey, don't you outburst like that again. It's gonna be a contempt charge. All right. It's gonna be 200 months, $10,000 fine. I told you, don't do that shit. Continue, please.
So to clarify, Was it your belief at the time that Mr. Rodriguez was involved in that jewelry store, despite
Yes, I've already
arriving
said
in
it.
a delivery truck?
Yes, I've said it before.
Understood. Do you often assume delivery truck drivers are related to nearby robberies?
When they're masked up.
Objection. That's going to be badgering, argumentative. There's a whole litany of issues wrong with that.
Okay.
No rebuttal.
You may rebuttal.
No rebuttal.
No rebuttal. All right. I'm going to sustain badgering.
One moment. Let me just check my list real quick. For the convenience of the court, would you be able to read the list of charges on the police report and evidence that Mr. Rodriguez received?
Objection. Outside of the personal knowledge of the witness, officer or Assistant Chief Metzger has indicated multiple times he was not the processing officer.
No rebuttal.
You may.
No. I mean, no rebuttal. It's just I thought it'd be convenient for the court to, hear it read by someone involved in.
I mean, I can see it. I can see it. It's not that big.
Understood.
Of a deal. It'll be sustained, but I can see the report. I can see the charges. It's on the only one that really matters.
Did you? So, were you at the scene of that jewelry store?
Yes.
Did you observe Mr. Rodriguez within the jewelry store?
We've already answered this. I said no.
Okay. I believe that's my final question.
I believe there is a cacophony of cross-examination to be had by the defense. Do you wish to cross?
Oh, yeah. I don't think there's a cacophony, though, Your Honor. My client did a really good job of answering questions.
All right.
All right. I do have a couple of clarifying points, though.
Go for
it. Metzger, you said that you could see this scene unfolding for approximately 10 seconds before you arrived, and then there was, that 5 to 7 second window you were actually on scene. How many times did you see Officer Ridley get tackled?
So bikes travel quite fast, pedal bikes. So in the time that Casterin and I were approaching the scene on bikes, I could see him get tackled at least once. And then, as I stated, when we actually got on scene, the individuals both got up, and Ridley got up at the same time and faced each other. When he had his taser drawn on them, and then they charged him again when we were right as we pulled up, essentially.
Okay. Did you ever see Officer Ridley tase the plaintiff, specifically Mr. Rodriguez?
Not him specifically.
Okay. You indicated during your testimony that you received radio traffic from Ridley requesting 77s. Real quick, can you clarify what what a 77 request is?
Yeah, so there's two backup calls, 77, and then there's 78s. But basically, both of them just mean backup. Given the circumstances, when we're involved in something like this, a 77 is usually treated more like a 78 because of the fact that we have armed suspects. But a 78, for clarity, is also a urgent call for backup. Like, that's a shots fired type of situation.
Okay, urgent call for backup.
Yeah.
Was there any additional information accompanying that 77 call?
No, basically, myself and Catherine both tried to radio back to him as we were pursuing one of the other suspects, but he kept intermittently transmitting or not responding at all.
Okay, so you were met with just kind of broken radio traffic then that didn't give you a full picture of what you were walking into.
Yes, and then Ridley later clarified that the reason he didn't respond was because he was getting attacked.
Okay, this is going to seem like a silly question, but were all officers on scene driving or marked in police clothing?
Yes.
Okay, so had their big vests that say police in large letters, or otherwise were wearing
visible badges.
and such?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And just one more time, was the plaintiff warned verbally to cease and desist his conduct?
By myself, personally, yes.
Okay. Did he cease and desist after he was verbally warned?
No, he continued to attack Ridley.
Okay. Was the plaintiff on the ground when you opened fire on him?
No, I waited until he stood up after tackling Ridley to engage him.
Okay, so he wasn't laying on the ground. But was he being electrocuted by a taser when you opened fire on him?
No, his cohort was though.
Okay, but you didn't open fire on her, did you?
No, she was on the ground incapacitated with a taser.
Okay, all right. Did the suspect approach you either while or after being fired upon?
He ran at an angle towards me, like kind of like an oblique.
Okay, kind of entered that 20-foot range you were describing to us earlier.
Because of the geometry, we were already within 20 feet of them, if not closer.
Okay. You mentioned something interesting earlier. You said you believed this individual to be involved in the jewelry store robbery in some capacity. Could you explain a little bit more why you thought he was involved in that?
Yeah, so as it's already stated in the report, we had the vehicle show up on scene, the box truck. We had been pursuing 3 individuals. We had Mr. Wei, who's back there in the gallery, in custody already. We were chasing 2 others. So it's not uncommon, especially like a box truck or something like that, where we have bicycles for it to be used in some sort of getaway. So to see that just kind of show up on scene when we're chasing a bunch of bikes, it's not a far leap to assume or make a reasonable deduction that that might be involved. Pair that up with, well, he left the scene and then came back. It doesn't take a genius to start putting that all together.
Okay.
I'm sorry, he left and then came back.
Yeah, he was ordered to leave. The box truck was ordered to leave, and then it came back onto the scene.
All right. And there was an individual who was in police detainment at the time, Mr. Wei Wong. What was he in detainment for?
He was one of the jewelry store robbers.
Okay. Is it your belief that the plaintiff was interfering in an attempt to aid or abet Mr. Wei Wong after the fact?
Yes, I believe directly they were trying to.
Objection, facts not in evidence. There's no charges or anything to suggest that he was involved in assisting. There's no, obstruction charges, nothing to substantiate that claim.
My rebuttal to that, Your Honor, is first and foremost, the plaintiff pled guilty, which means that such charges may have been dropped as a result of a guilty plea. Secondarily, we are in a civil court today, not a criminal court, where the burden of proof is much lower. So, although officers may have suspected as much, which is what I'm asking the witness today, they may not have been able to bear that burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Since we have a different threshold here, I don't think the fact he wasn't charged is highly relevant.
I want to sustain. I think you can move on. I'm getting the point. Continue on.
Understood. Okay, in your professional experience, Metzger, have police officers previously been attacked after being knocked prone by individuals?
Yes.
Okay. Are you familiar with the term warlording?
Yes, unfortunately.
All right. Can you explain to the court what that is?
Yes, please explain warlording in great detail, please.
Objection, relevance.
There are
Well, I'm asking for him to explain it. Now, are you objecting that me knowing that is
I
irrelevant?
interpret it as sarcasm, Your Honor.
No, I want to know
there
what
are
warlording is.
several types of it. One technique is to tackle an individual and then beat them, stab them, shoot them while they're on the ground, unable to react. Another method is to I've seen employed is you deploy a taser against somebody while they're incapacitated on the ground. You then further injure them. You could also hit somebody with a vehicle. There's a laundry list of ways to put somebody on the ground in order to gain relative advantage over them before essentially executing them or using some sort of more deadly force against them.
So essentially, you stun them before you execute.
That's essentially what the term means.
Got it.
Okay, and you've testified somewhat in depth to your experience with, the police department. Are you familiar with beanbag shotguns?
Yes, I believe the Chief Justice here has one on him.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
I do.
I know Stan's very familiar with them.
Yes.
Okay, in your professional opinion, is there a significant difference between knocking the wind out of someone with a beanbag shotgun as opposed to knocking them to the ground using force of your body?
No, especially when two people are doing it to one person.
Okay, what is the threat when you have two people doing it to one person?
I think it's the threats obviously increase as if it's just one person, but the threat is one person could essentially tackle the other individual, and then the other one could pull out a firearm or whatever it may be, or just start attacking them while they're on the ground with their fists or feet or whatever. It
Okay,
kind of takes the secondary action out from the one person.
all right, that raises another interesting point. Does someone have to be brandishing a firearm to pose a lethal threat to a police officer?
Absolutely not.
Okay. What would be a situation where someone not wielding a firearm could pose such a threat?
As I already stated, the 20-foot rule comes to mind here. Like I've stated, you right now could probably get to me faster than I can pull my firearm out, and you could absolutely sucker punch me, knock me out, and then do as you will. So there are a plethora of situations where somebody does not have to be wielding a weapon to be a threat.
And in your professional experience, has that happened to you in the past? Has someone ever, sucker punched you and just beat the ever living hell out of you before you
Yeah,
could
absolutely.
deploy your firearm?
I've had my firearm pointed at an individual, and either they're on some sort of drug or they just happen to close the distance and bob and weave perfectly to avoid getting shot. So it's within reason.
Okay. How often do you experience these robbery situations? Whether it be Evangelico's jewelry or a Fleeca bank, where there's a fourth individual who's involved who's not physically present on location.
It depends. I couldn't give you a percentage, but I mean it's not uncommon that criminal groups split up at two and two, 3 and 1, or whatever it may be, in order to better allow themselves to escape or whatever.
Okay. And in the situations where you have that third or that fourth individual out, or that third and fourth individual who are outside of location, are they typically completely unarmed and harmless?
Oh no, never. Usually they sometimes it's like I said, it's like they have a hostage waiting for an exchange somewhere, or they have a vehicle waiting for a quicker getaway, etc. Or like this one, this I think recently there was a similar situation with a box truck where people tried to get their vehicle into said box truck, but police deployed a pit maneuver before it was able to do so.
All right. Your Honor, if you'll allow me just a couple of seconds to review my notes, I want to make sure I don't have anything else for cross here.
Yeah, go ahead. I do want to ask you a question, Metzger. What did you say when you've had a gun aimed at somebody and they've closed this so-called gap between you and they've perfectly bobbed and weaved between shots? Did potato aim have any effect to that?
I don't think. Okay, first of all, Buck. No, there are plenty of cops that it doesn't matter who you are.
Okay. So no, potato aim did not play an effect
No.
on this. Okay.
All right, Assistant Chief Metzger, whenever you have an individual who is approaching you within that 20-foot radius, are there any dangers to yourself personally or to other police officers in electing to use a taser rather than use a firearm?
So you're talking about if somebody's approaching me and I deploy a taser instead of something else?
Yeah, yeah. So, like, in the event that is there a reason you choose not to use your taser in that situation?
It would, like I said, for the situation like this where there's a lot of other variables that have already gone into it. Something like that where we already know they're armed, or something else is essentially exacerbated the situation. We might not deploy a taser. If I'm alone, I would also not deploy a taser against one person by myself.
Okay. And what's the approximate recharge time on a taser? How long does it take for you to slide a new cartridge in there?
I think that's user dependent, but I'd say it takes probably somewhere between 5 and 10 seconds. Depends.
5 and 10 seconds. In your professional opinion, can a suspect close a 20-foot gap on you in 5 to 10 seconds?
Oh, it literally takes like 2 or 3 seconds to close 20 feet.
Okay, so time for a smoke break or a kick to the ribs
Yeah.
afterwards. Got it. Okay. So, in your professional opinion, if you miss that taser shot whenever they're trying to close that gap, does that put you personally in danger?
Yeah, it absolutely it does. That's why we tell officers when they're by themselves to use a lethal firearm and have it aimed at somebody instead. Wait for backup to you deploy a taser.
Okay. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
Please give me a moment to consider the questions I'd like to ask on this redirect.
Yeah, I'll give you a moment.
And you know what he does? He's like a zebra. He just all over the place. Yeah, it's the meth. And then he stabbed me in front of the hospital. Like I said, I have a lot of experience with this 20-foot thing. He tried, but I don't think he doesn't know that kind of stuff. I've got a lot of us have that kind of experience. You know what I mean? Like somebody, what? Yeah, it's okay. I made the comment to Crane. I don't think the baby attorney knows I wrote most of the SOPs, so it's quite funny for me. Yeah, I know. Oh, I know. That's why after the DA's office, I told Crane what a former DA told me earlier, or sent me previously, that she didn't believe that use of force was justified, which is it her job to determine. Exactly. Like how does somebody who's not a cop know what happened? Yeah, because like I completely understand if I read the report and I don't know the context. Yeah, it sounds like I rolled up and shot a dude. I mean, I've shot people who literally I've been in a foot pursuit with, had my gun out by myself with them, and then they turn around and run straight at me, and they still run at me without even with me pointing a gun at them and telling them to stop. You know.
Thank you for your patience.
All right, let's go ahead and get this underway. Redirect.
You mentioned being in a bike for part of it, being in a car for part of it. Could you give a full breakdown
No,
of
I'm
when you're in a bike
I
versus when you're in a
arrived
car?
in my car to the scene. I got on a bike for the remainder of the scene. I said there was a car, Officer Ridley's car, at the shooting scene of the shooting.
Your Honor, I'd actually like to object to that question on the grounds of scope. That's completely outside the scope of my cross.
I believe the bike was mentioned as an answer, but I'll leave that to you, Your Honor.
Looking here through my notes, through the scope of what Crane asked, he didn't really ask anything about a bike or anything of that nature. In your first line of questioning, yes, that was mentioned, but not within the scope of Crane. So I will sustain.
Understood. You mentioned, quote, warlording. Do you have any evidence that Ridley was being did you have any evidence that Ridley was being warlorded at the time? Or was it an assumption?
I was asked what warlording is. I never stated that I believe somebody was being warlorded. But it's always a threat when two people are attacking somebody. I
So
have
sorry,
to juggle a million things in my head about what could happen. It never got to that point, thankfully.
Understood. So you mentioned, being outnumbered and using a gun. Do you have any idea why Ridley chose not to use a gun?
I don't know, trying to be
That
nice.
it would actually
Yeah.
be speculative type of thing. Counselor
Yeah,
asking
I
him
was about to
to
object to
try
that.
and figure out what Ridley was thinking when Ridley was not here. Is not here to answer that. You're asking him to speculate someone else's thoughts. You know that, Counselor.
Understood, Your Honor. You mentioned about the radio communication, being in and out. Is it possible for, radios to break up for completely innocuous reasons?
No,
And,
like I stated, I asked Ridley why on the scene, and he stated because he was literally being tackled multiple times by individuals, so he stopped transmitting. I don't know if you've ever been tackled and tried pressing a hand mic, but physics kind of is a thing.
And during that, so are you just assuming, were you assuming at the time that Mr. Rodriguez was part of the jewelry store?
Asked and answered.
That was indeed asked and answered.
Understood. One moment. You mentioned that Mr. Rodriguez was shot as he was getting up. Had he even finished getting up?
Like I said, he was already standing up when he was shot.
Do you believe he had ample time to raise his hands during that time?
Well, he already. I'll say this.
With
as I
respect, I
said,
must ask for a yes or no answer if possible.
well, he already disregarded my first advisement, so no, he wasn't given that chance because he was shot for disobeying it.
So as soon as he got up, shot.
Yeah, well, he stood up and then was engaged. Yeah.
By engaged, you mean shot, just to clarify.
Yes, he was engaged with 2 sidearms from 2 police officers.
Understood. One moment. I believe that's everything for my redirect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You may step down, Metzger. Crane, are you gonna ask direct questions of Metzger?
Give me 5 seconds with my client, Your Honor.
All right, do what you do. Next witness you wish to call plaintiff. Do you have any more witnesses? The next question.
We do indeed. Give me one moment. I'd like to determine the order quickly.
Back over here. All right, how many more witnesses we got to go through, plaintiff?
3.
All right. What's the next one?
Mr. Wei Wong.
Your Honor, I've got a question as to how we still have 3 witnesses when there's 3 in total listed by the plaintiffs. Is there an additional that was named
Yep,
that I'm
an additional was
unapprised of?
motioned by the name of Joey Mercer.
Interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
That was motioned in the docket later on. And accepted.
I did accept him. Oh shit.
Understood.
If you'd like to confirm, I'm happy to wait.
No,
I
I'm
believe
good
it.
unless Stan wants to look it over.
I believe it. It's fine. I don't really unless there's like an objection that's put on somebody for an added witness, I usually just accept them.
Understood. Okay. Hello, Mr. Wong.
Oh, hi there.
Hey,
For the
don't ask
courtroom.
no questions. Raise your hand.
Oh, my apologies, of course. Missed that.
You swear to tell the truth to the best of your knowledge under the penalties of death, so help you Nikes.
Oh, yeah, Nike guy. Yep, that's right.
All right. Go ahead.
Excellent.
And,
Please,
ask the
could you
question.
provide your full legal name for the record?
Yeah, it's Wei, W-E-I, Wong, W-O-N-G.
And are you a close personal friend of Mr. Rodriguez?
I do not think so, no.
Understood. How would you describe your relationship, Mr. Rodriguez?
He used to work down at the store and I would buy things from him, coffee, like donut, those things, nothing crazy.
Understood. On the 5th of December 2020, did you observe the incident described in the police report as evidence?
Sorry, say again?
Yep, on the 5th of December 2020, did you observe the incident as described in the police report?
I can concur for the first bit right up until they knocked me out. Then I don't know nothing else after that.
Do you know what knocked you out?
To the best of my knowledge, we own a pedal bike, right? A couple pedal bike. Then they kept hitting pedal bike over, and then I think I hit a wall because they hit me into it. That's what they
Understood.
tell me later when I woke up in the cell.
Understood. That was all for Mr. Wong. Thank you.
I've got a few. Why not?
You
We got
do?
you. We got you up here, Mr. Wong. We may as well make good use of your time, right?
Well, you know what? I mean, what the hell not, right?
Okay. So you said you were on a pedal bike and you were struck by police officers. Why were you on that pedal bike?
I was on the pedal bike because it was right there, so I used the pedal bike to run from the cop.
Run from the cops. Why on earth are you running from the cops, Mr. Wong?
Well, you already know based on your police report, right?
Well, yeah, but we don't have your police report. We've got Mr. Rodriguez's. I just want to clarify from your perspective.
Oh, from my perspective, my perspective is just simply we had something from the store that don't belong to us, so the cop gonna chase us on the bike. We on the bike too.
Okay, all right. So you robbed Evangelico's jewelry store, Mr. Wong.
Oh yeah, that's correct.
Okay. You said that Mr. Rodriguez is not a close personal friend of yours. Was he involved in that robbery that day?
No.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't on standby outside of the store for you.
Mr. Rodriguez was nowhere near the enveloped the jewelry store. No.
That's not what I'm asking. I'm not asking if he was nearby. I'm asking if he was on standby for you.
Oh, standby, not nearby. Oh, okay. Good grief, I get that mixed up so much. No, he not on standby.
Okay. Were you on radio with Mr. Rodriguez that day?
That day at some point, you never know. Maybe for little thing, but not for the big thing. No.
So not for the jewelry store robbery.
That's correct.
Okay. To your knowledge, how did Mr. Rodriguez know you were in police custody then?
I don't know. I was already unconscious.
Already unconscious.
From what I've been told. Yep.
Did you communicate with Mr. Rodriguez prior to going unconscious in any way?
No.
No. Okay. Have you ever participated in any prior robberies with Mr. Rodriguez?
No.
No, not at all. No bank trucks, no Evangelico's jewelry, none of that.
No, never before. Never done a job with the guy. Like I say, he make good coffee, good donut, good pastry.
Okay. Well, I have to ask. I'm not saying I don't believe you, Mr. Wong, but we do have this police report saying there's 2 or 3 other unidentified individuals. If those weren't Mr. Rodriguez, then who were they?
Well, no, I'm gonna plead the fifth to that question because he is trying to incriminate me on base or other people on not this current court case, right?
This is a civil case, Your Honor.
Yeah.
He's a witness.
Well, like I can answer the question, but I don't know. I don't know.
All right, you should answer the question.
Okay, I don't know.
You have no idea who those people were.
No, like they outside party, right? Like essentially just they join in.
Okay, if you have no idea who they were, or you contracted them, is it possible that one of them was Mr. Rodriguez?
No, don't think so.
That's not possible.
Mm.
Okay, interesting. All right. Let's see. Did you go to jail for any crimes related to this, Mr. Wong?
Oh yeah, I did time. That's right.
Okay, you did time. What were your crimes?
Oh, I don't know if I can remember all the charges, but essentially robbery.
Robbery and
Oh,
probably a
and
couple of-
evading. Yeah, evading, because they're on the bike, right? So, yeah, evading too, that's for sure.
maybe a couple of possession charges in there that aren't too important. Okay. All right. So your testimony, I just want to clarify your testimony for the court today is that you were robbing Vangelico's jewelry store with 2 or 3 individuals. You have no idea who they were. You were fleeing on pedal bikes and you did not see Mr. Rodriguez get shot. Is that a fair summary?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. I've got no further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
One moment.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Nothing for redirect, Your Honor.
All right, Wei Wong, you may step down.
Perfect. Thank you.
We will not be marking Mr. Wong for recall, Your Honor.
All right. Next witness, please.
Joey Mercer.
Come up here, Joey.
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, mind the glass.
The glass, yeah.
Mind the glass.
Oh, I see that now. All right.
All right. Let's raise your hand. You swear to tell the truth to the best of your knowledge of the penalties of death. So help you. Airborne.
So help me, Airborne.
All right. Go ahead.
Hello, please provide your full legal name for the record.
Yeah, it's Joey Mercer.
Are you a close personal friend of Mr. Rodriguez?
Yeah, I'd say we're friends. I mean, it depends on your definition of close. I don't really think a whole lot of people are close with me, but yeah, we're friends.
Understood. On the 5th of December 2020, did you observe the incident described in the police report?
Yes, I did actually. I did observe.
Where were you located while observing the incident?
So originally I had seen the incident from down the street. I believe it was San Andreas. I saw some light sirens, some bicycles, whatnot. I was kind of curious, so I relocated myself to I don't remember what the name of the plaza is, but it was just above the scene where it happened. It's like a 3-story little plaza, a little garden area on top. It's pretty nice. But I was up there where I observed the scene initially.
All right, were you just looking? Or
Yeah, I was just kind of curious to see what was going on. We see a bunch of people riding on bicycles, getting chased by the cops. I didn't know what was happening, so
So
I positioned
Just to
myself at a safe
clarify, you had an
distance.
aerial view of the scene.
Yes, I did. I was about 3 stories up.
Understood. Did you have a good view? Could you see everything going on?
For the I guess the start of what I observed, I saw most of what happened. And there was a point when they more or less left my line of sight. I tried to move to a different location to see what ensued, and yeah, some events unfolded at that point that I did not observe.
Understood. In terms of what you observed, did you ever observe Mr. Rodriguez punch or kick Scott Ridley?
No.
Did you ever observe Mr. Rodriguez engage in warlording on Scott Ridley?
Negative.
Okay. With reference to the timeline of the police reports, approximately when did you start observing and finish observing the incident?
So I believe I started observing shortly before Officer Metzger arrived on scene. At the time, I had seen, I believe, was Wei Wang, I suppose, who was incapacitated on the ground. And I observed an officer close by him, at which point I saw a masked individual pull up in a truck, and he exited the truck. He walked towards the building, past the officer with a box in his hand. I believe the officer had from what I could see, had started, I would assume shouting at him or telling him to leave the scene. It didn't seem at any point that he was probably, posing any sort of threat on the officer. I continued to watch as he attempted to make his way back towards the truck. Um, uh, Furthermore, past that point, I could only assume he was continued, to be verbally warned. As the cops usually do, and as Metzger had said that I guess he was given a verbal warning.
All right,
And
Your Honor,
then-
this time I'm going to assert two objections. One for speculation and two for calls for narrative.
Yeah. Sustained. Let's get let's get
Understood.
to the point. Let's
Yeah,
let's narrow this down. No, not you. Counsel. Let's ask pointed questions. And what was the other one again? The other objection.
Speculation.
As to
Although
what?
as to things that may have been verbally uttered, it's already been testified by the witness that he couldn't hear anything. He could only physically see from a
Okay.
distance.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't speculate on what may or may not have been said.
Sure.
Just keep to what you observed. Leave your thoughts and opinions of what happened out of it. Stick to facts.
Of course.
All right, counselor. Pointing questions. Go.
For clarification, may I ask from that objection what precisely has been stricken? The whole speech up to that point, or
Whole speech up to that point. Yeah.
understood? Bear with me one moment, please. Okay, so with reference to the police report, what was the very first thing you saw?
Okay, yeah. So the first thing I saw when I started observing through the binoculars, I saw Wei Wang incapacitated on the ground. I saw an officer nearby him. I continued to observe the scene for a short time, at which point I saw the truck.
Sorry,
pull up.
just let's take this step by step, Mr. Mercer, just to avoid narrative, you know.
Mhm.
So that's what you initially saw, and then after that, so could you describe the initial arrival of the box truck?
Yeah, the box truck pulled up. It parked just down the road from, I guess, where the scene was happening, and where the officer and Wei Wang were, and the individual exited the box truck with a box in his hands.
Understood. After he left the truck, what did he do?
He approached the building so as to, deliver the package. He left the package at the door and walked away from the building.
Understood. After he had walked away from the building, what happened?
At this point, I saw the officer and him turn towards each other. I believe the officer had brandished a taser at Mr. Rodriguez. They started moving back towards the truck. At which point my view had become obstructed. I moved from where I was, and I did not observe any of the incident past that point.
Understood. So did you observe? Were you observing the incident at the point that Assistant Chief Thomas Metzger shot Mr. Rodriguez?
No, sir.
Understood. To clarify, did you see Mr. Rodriguez holding a weapon in his hands at any points during this incident?
No, sir.
And just to clarify, did you at any point hear Mr. Rodriguez state he had a weapon on his person at any point during the incident?
No, definitely not.
Okay. And you didn't. Okay, one moment. Are there any points of the police reports that your observations conflict with?
From what I see, no. Like I said, let me just look at the report again. Just Yeah, it said. Well, it said that he delivered a package and then re-entered the truck and left the area. I did not observe him actually re-enter the truck.
And just to
I
confirm, why is that?
like I said, I believe he was obstructed from being able to get back to the truck. From what I observed, the officer was trying to stop him from going back.
Understood. I believe that's all my questions for Mr. Mercer. Thank you.
Just a few questions for Cross, Your Honor. Let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
All right, Mr. Mercer, I want to start off with your relationship with Mr. Rodriguez. You said you're friends, but you don't really consider anybody to be close to you. How'd you meet Mr. Rodriguez?
We initially met, I believe, down at the Grove Street gas station. He was working there at the time when we had started talking. Go down there, get a coffee, whatnot. We would, chit chat here and there every time I go down there.
Okay, all right. So you chit chat with him down there. What has your relationship become these days? Does he no longer work down there, or?
As far as I know, nobody works down at the Grove Street gas station. We talk from time to time. We keep up with each other. Hey, what's going on? How you been doing? You been holding it down, that kind of stuff.
Okay. What were you doing in the area the day of this incident?
I was, like I said, I was actually just driving around, and I had observed what appeared to be the active scene from a distance up the road on San Andreas. And my curiosity had gotten the better of me, which I had relocated to the position from where I observed the scene.
Yeah, I think both myself and my client are probably aware of how people get attracted to lights and
Yeah,
sirens like
know.
bugs to a zapper, unfortunately.
Well, it was just a bunch of guys on bicycles. You don't always see it. It was kind of curious, so I
Okay.
was interested. Just piqued my interest.
Could you give me an estimate? Whatever like physical measuring distance you're comfortable with, miles, city blocks, feet. How far away from the incident were you?
I mean, I would say, I was just across the street and about 3 stories up. So, I don't know. I'd say maybe not even half a block. Honestly, I was fairly close, but I was still using binoculars from the height that I was at. So,
Okay. All right. So about a half block away with binoculars. Mr. Mercer, do you have a criminal history?
yes, I do.
Okay. Have you ever robbed a jewelry store before?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever participated in any criminal activities with Mr. Rodriguez?
No, actually.
Okay, so you two have never gone out on a Ocean's 11 style job together or anything like
No,
that?
definitely not. I mean, maybe in a dream sometime, but we've, as far as I know, I don't really know exactly what all my team does. So, no, we've never done anything like that.
Okay. All right. Let me look over my notes here. All right, and just to clarify for the court's record, you did not observe Assistant Chief of Police Thomas Metzger arrive on scene.
No, I did not. I only heard audible gunshots. At which point I felt it was best for my safety to probably evacuate the premises.
Okay. Did you ever come back to the scene afterwards?
No, I did not.
Okay. Did you ever go up to Pillbox and see Mr. Rodriguez or Mr. Wong up there or anything like that?
No, I had actually checked the newspaper later on, seeing that he had got sent to prison. And it's obviously one of my boys is in prison. I'm gonna go up. I'm gonna talk to him, see if he's there. So yeah. I mean, we went up and we talked later on. So how I learned
Okay.
about the matter.
Okay, so you checked the newspaper. Did you also see that Mr. Wong had been sent in?
I mean, I guess I could have seen that Wei Wang was on there too. I mean, I just saw a name that I recognized.
Okay, you're just specifically looking for Mr. Rodriguez because he's one of your boys, like you said.
Well, yeah, I mean,
all right,
I wasn't really specifically looking for anybody.
Okay. Just one more silly question, but I've got to ask because Mr. Wong brought it up. You weren't part of any team that was contracted or hired to rob this jewelry store that day, were you?
No, of course not.
Okay. Okay. Are you aware of any such organizations that exist? Robbers for hire, as it were.
I mean,
Objection relevance.
Yeah.
I don't believe this is directly relevant to what's going on here.
I find it to be highly relevant towards the credibility of Mr. Wong's testimony.
I mean, I suppose it could be. I mean, I've never reached out or tried to contact the criminal organization to hire them for something of that matter. I mean, obviously, like
Mr. Mercer,
this
Yeah,
way,
stay
there's
quiet,
so many
Mercer.
possibilities.
Quiet, Mercer.
Right, all right.
My rebuttal would be, Your Honor, I just don't see how it's relevant to Mr. Rodriguez. I'll leave it to you at that.
If I may, just one more time, Your Honor, it's
Nah.
relevant.
Nah. I'll entertain it. Overruled.
Okay. All right. Okay. Now go ahead and answer the question, Mr. Mercer. Sorry about that.
Yeah, could you just restate the question?
Yeah. Are you aware of any, criminal enterprises or services where you can hire individuals to partake in these robberies with you?
Am I aware? No.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Quick redirects. Not too much. Mr. Mercer, you mentioned you were using binoculars.
Yes,
Using those
indeed, I
binoculars,
was.
how good was your view of the scene?
It was pretty good. Not gonna lie, binoculars are pretty nice. They get you pretty up close.
Would you have noticed if anything was being held in any of the individuals on scene's hands?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. And nothing was in Mr. Rodriguez's hands, right?
Nothing besides a box. I mean, he delivered a box and he went back.
Just some
and,
box.
Yeah.
Understood. That'll be all. Thank you.
Thank you. You may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We will not be marking Mr. Mercer for direct examination, Your Honor.
All right. Last witness.
Be Mr. Rodriguez himself.
How many witnesses you got over there, Crane?
So far, just the one.
All right.
If I don't have too many objections on scope or anything like that with Mr. Rodriguez, we may not have to recall him either.
All right. Sounds good. Raise your hand.
Which one?
I swear to tell the truth to the best of your knowledge.
Which one?
under
Left or right?
The left hand, boy. The only hand you can raise in the city.
I can raise both of them, I don't know.
Yeah.
Put your hand down. You swear to tell the truth to the best of your knowledge under the penalties of death. So help you. Slasher.
100%. Whatever that is.
All right.
May I begin? Say that's a yes. Please provide
Yep.
your full legal name.
Martin Julio Perz Rodriguez.
Have you ever had any encounters with Assistant Chief Thomas Metzger prior to this incident?
No, that was my very first encounter.
Okay. Have you ever discussed anything related to your criminal record with Assistant Chief Thomas Metzger prior to this incident?
No, that's the very first encounter I had with him, and he didn't even process me.
Has Assistant Chief Thomas Metzger ever expressed to you that he assumes you're armed at all times?
Repeat the question one more time.
Yep. Has Assistant Chief Thomas Metzger ever told you that he expects you to be armed at all times?
Well, no, that's like the first time I see the guy, he just gets out of the car and I get shot, so.
Understood. Just to clarify, on the 5th of December 2020, did you have an incident with PD described in police report 34641?
Yeah, I did have an incident with the police, but some of the stuff is, unclear.
And what do you mean? What's unclear?
When he says that he pulled up on a bike, but he didn't, he pulled up on a car. The fact that he says, he did tell me, he warned me, he gave me a verbal warning, right? But at that point, I was already mid-action of tackling Ripley, and as soon as I got up, didn't even give me a chance to do anything. He already started shooting me.
Understood. And just to confirm, did you tackle Officer Ridley?
Yes, I did.
How did Officer Ridley himself respond to this?
Ripley tased me and tackled me as well.
Okay. Did you at any point punch or kick Ridley?
No, I did not.
Did you at any point engage in warlording upon Ridley?
If I wanted to hurt Ripley, right? Like they mentioned, there was two of us, and we could have easily done something, but we didn't.
Understood. Did you at any point during this incident hold a weapon of any kind in your hand?
Not that he could see. I did have one, but he never saw it. I never pulled it out.
Understood. Did you at any point during this incident state that you had a concealed weapon on you?
No. They didn't know until I was, put down, and they looked through my pockets.
Okay. You mentioned Metzger shot you quickly. The police report specifically states, quote, shortly after Metzger shot and incapacitated Rodriguez. Can you give an approximate time of how shortly this was?
So me and Ripley had I tackled him maybe once, twice. Just unsure how many times. For about maybe 10 to 20 seconds. Then he showed up, told me not to tackle, and not even 10 seconds after, it was like end of his sentence. It's like he made his mind up already before he got there.
Understood. So to clarify, Assistant Chief Thomas Metzger had not yet finished his command at the point
No,
he
he
shot.
finished the sentence, but not even 2 seconds later. He finished the sentence. I was getting up from the ground as he said it, and then I got shot.
Understood. Would you? Sorry, one moment. Okay, how long will you say you were given to react to the command given?
I wasn't even I stood up, and then that's it. I couldn't even throw my hands up if I wanted to, even if he didn't give me even the chance to do that.
Understood. Did you at any point threaten Assistant Chief Thomas Metzger?
No, I never did.
Understood. And just to clarify, does the medical report in evidence ending in 27 accurately describe that you received injuries from both tasers and gunshots during this
That's
incident?
correct.
Okay. And just to confirm, is the police report a full account of events, or is there anything missing there?
I mean, it's as accurate as we can remember. It did happen, 3 weeks ago.
Understood. Time understood. I believe that is all for my questioning. Thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez, make sure you're speaking nice and loud for the court, okay?
Yeah.
All right. Let me take a look at my notes here. All right, there's one statement you made. You started off talking about Ridley. If I wanted to hurt him, could you restate that for the court, please?
If I had intentions, right, to, quote unquote, warlord, right, that the court has mentioned, it could have happened a lot faster than before the police would respond, right? But I didn't.
Right. Okay. And you specifically mentioned that because there were two of you, you could have hurt him, but you didn't. Is that correct?
I mean, that's what the court has stated today, right? There's two individuals, and if two individuals wanted to do something, to harm Ripley, well, it could have happened very easy, right? And even I mentioned, right? I agreed I had a gun on me. I could have pulled a gun on Ripley, but I never did, right?
Okay. Mr. Rodriguez, what were you doing on scene that day?
I delivered my delivery, right? But right before I delivered my delivery, I witnessed somebody get hit. He was riding, Mr. Wei Wong, right? He was riding his bike and he was ran over by a police officer. And I had my delivery there, so I did my delivery. And I how do I say this? Hold on, I'm trying to find out the right way to say it. My language barrier.
Yeah, nowhere. Take your time.
After I did my delivery, I was asked to leave the area, which you guys stated I did. In reality, I just walked around the corner. I was walking away. I came back to help the man that was on the ground, ran over by a cop, which in my eyes, I am a criminal, and I just I felt bad, right? I don't want to see people get run over and mistreated by police. So I want to help a friend out.
All right. I want to clarify. Were you part of the robbery of the Vangelico's jewelry store involving Wei Wong and 2 other unidentified individuals?
No, it was not.
Okay. Were you on a radio with Mr. Wong that day?
I'll be 100%. I couldn't recall that. 3 weeks ago, my friend. I'm on radios with people every day.
Okay. Couldn't recall at that time. Okay. So when you say you wanted to help a friend out, do you mean that you wanted to help him avoid going into the custody of the police?
You could say so.
I could say so all day.
Yeah,
As a matter of fact, that's exactly what I would say. I'm asking what you would say, Mr. Rodriguez.
Yeah, I was trying to help him. You got ran over by a cop.
Got run over by a cop. Okay. While there, did you witness Mr. Wong fleeing from the police?
No, I only witnessed him get put, he got hit off his bike and then he was fucking leaking on the ground.
Okay. Did you witness him being placed into handcuffs?
I did not.
You did not. Okay.
Because Mr. Wong flew pretty far, and he was behind a pillar that I could not see.
Okay. Were you warned to leave the area by officers?
Yes. Was Ripley and another guy.
Ridley and another guy. Could you describe the other officer for us?
I could not.
Okay. All right. Do you have a criminal history, Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Is it a pretty large criminal history?
I mean, that's not for me to determine.
Okay, fair enough. You received some charges related to this particular incident. Do you remember what those were?
Yeah, class 1, which is correct. I did have a class 1. And I don't remember the second one.
Okay. Yeah, if I told you had an assault and battery, or if the police report reflected that, does that sound right to you?
I mean, if that's what it says, then that's what I got, right?
Okay. Did you plead guilty to those charges?
I pleaded guilty to having class 1, but
Okay. What did you do later that day, Mr. Rodriguez?
Objection relevance. We're asking about one specific incident, and he's going outside that.
Rebuttal. He's asking for pain and suffering, Your Honor. It's highly relevant what he did later that day.
If I may rebut.
If you give me,
rebut. You can rebut. You know what? Let's see. But I kind of want to hear what you have to say, and Crane, I'll let you go again.
I was going to say I'm laying the foundation for something else for Mr. Rodriguez's criminal history,
Talking
including
about pain
incidents.
and suffering, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Including the incidents that have happened after this. I'm not including these to show that he was guilty on the particular occasion, just showing
right.
how he may have been physically affected by what happened to
Right.
him that day.
And then what was your rebut to that there, counselor over there in the back?
That the term pain and suffering is I don't believe it being used within the docket. We're just looking for, as you can see, just general damages for the fact he has to go through this incident. We've not claimed any sort of long-term, disability, or
right. That would fall under general damages. I would argue.
Your Honor, I'm also going to say that the plaintiff's counsel is just wrong. It says in the second paragraph, we wish to recover damages in line with the physical pain and suffering of the plaintiff caused by the use of excessive force.
Of course I was hurt.
So I'm not playing this nitpicky word game with them when they claimed it.
Yeah. I would even go farther to say, counsel, when you declare general damages, I'm going to look at any and all damages that are associated with general damages,
Understood, Your Honor.
pain and suffering, wages lost, things of that nature. I'm going to look at all that. So yes, it is within Crane's right to bring it up, and to go in on it. So your objection for relevance is going to be overruled at this time.
Understood, Your Honor.
All right. I'm going to re-ask the question for you, Mr. Rodriguez. That was a lot. I believe we probably lost track of where we were. So,
what did you do later that day?
Yeah, later that day, what did you do?
Hold on, let me think. Oh, yeah, I relaxed. I went to sleep. Shot. I went to prison, and I just, after a long day, I need to sleep.
Is that right?
Okay.
Did you call in to question the defense's criminal past?
I did, and this court has already accepted it, Your Honor.
Give me a moment to take a look at.
I'll get to a couple of specific instances for you, Your Honor.
Yes, please make it apparent.
Part of my line of questioning. Mr. Rodriguez, exactly 14 hours after this incident, did you rob a bank truck?
I couldn't recall. It's 3 weeks ago.
Okay. Were you still suffering from your injuries at the time that you robbed a bank truck on December 6th, 2020?
Does it say where was that one done?
I would refer the court to report. It's December 6th, 2020. I believe it's titled bank truck
Objection.
robbery.
Facts not an evidence. This isn't accessible to the plaintiff's counsel.
It was if you look in the docket, the criminal record of your client was admitted
Particular
into.
reports have not been made available to the plaintiff's counsel there.
I've accepted the entire criminal record, sir. If you didn't go back and look into your client's criminal past,
well, with respect, Your Honor, that's the
that,
criminal future.
That it happened prior to
after the incident. He said 14 hours after, Your Honor.
Yeah, you're also claiming pain and suffering. So what the point is being made here, counsel, is if there was indeed pain and suffering, and then he's out and about robbing a bank truck later on, not even a day later, and that's actually something that happened, there's no pain and suffering to be earned from that, counselor.
May I rebut?
Okay, yeah, you can rebut to what I just said.
Pain and suffering doesn't necessarily refer to, long-term pain and suffering. The pain and suffering occurred within the instance, within the hospital visit. The fact that the pillbox doctors did a good job isn't a reason, to pretend there wasn't pain and suffering originally.
Look, I'm not going to argue with you, but I would even argue further and to say that 14 hours later is not long-term. I'll be honest with you. So I'm going to take a look at this.
Understood, Your Honor.
Which one are you, Martin or Esteban?
His Malting with M.
Yeah, Martin.
Yeah, Esteban's my brother.
This was on the 6th.
It's 34708.
Your Honor, I think it's recorded as the 6th because the server that houses the PD's MDT is it's a bit of ways from here. Cloud sharing and all that. I think these are all. Metzger may be able to correct me. I think they're all GMT.
They're GMT.
I'm sorry. Do you have? So I have this bank truck robbery, and it's 34708. Is that what it is?
The one that he's talking about.
Okay, give me written by Matt the Karen Rhodes. Okay. Okay, I don't have a description of what happened in this report, but I see the charges.
Your Honor, the only thing I was referring to were the charges and the fact that the plaintiff pled guilty.
I mean, wait, you just told me they different because how do I say this? You said that my report was filed in the 6th, right?
Yes, yeah, it's affirmative.
For which, the bank fraud?
For both. They were filed within 14 hours of each other.
Wait, so you're telling me? I mean, that's the thing. Like, it didn't happen on the 6th.
Is this a time zone thing?
It's a time zone thing, but it happened within 14 hours of each other. That's fact. All right, let's go ahead and continue.
All right. Mr. Rodriguez, are you part of a gang?
I wouldn't say gang, familia,
Okay. You and your family get into shootouts pretty often.
I try not to.
You try not to, but do you factually get into shootouts somewhat often?
It depends. Are you talking about around that time or like the future?
Let's say from the date of the incident up until about a week later.
Because you said I'm gang affiliated, but I didn't get a gang affiliated till like, 2 weeks after that, until, the big city war. Everyone was warring.
Oh, okay. The big world war we had. I got
Yeah.
you. Okay. Were you in any shootouts related to that big the Great War of Los Santos?
I was being shot at. I didn't, intentionally go to shoot people, but my
Okay.
business has, how do I say it? The business I run has involved me into it, and I didn't want to do like business with people, and they just decided to shoot me because I didn't want to do business with them.
Okay. Well, what business is it that you run?
You can refer to Matt Rhodes. I do a lot of recycled material. I work a lot in what is it called, the recycling center, and people like to buy materials from me, but I choose not to sell to certain people because what they represent.
Okay, understood. I respect that. Businessmen have to have principles. Okay. Did you ever go to Pillbox for any follow-up visits related to the incident on December 5th?
I did. I went back. They checked on me again, and then I picked up my medical report.
Okay, you picked up. Did you give that medical report to your attorney? I'm not
No,
asking. I'm not asking
no,
for
no,
anything
no.
you told to your attorney. I just want to know if they have.
Yeah,
that.
no, they requested it.
Oh, okay. They requested it.
Yeah,
Your Honor, I would
I
like
talked
to.
to what is it called? I talked to the doctor, and I did like a release form, right? And I said it's alright for them to get it, and then they just requested it.
Okay, were you medically evaluated on that day, or did you just go up there for the paperwork?
I don't understand the question.
Whenever you returned to Pillbox, did you go back into a treatment room and they looked you over to assess your
Yeah,
injuries?
they laid me down
or-
and they looked at my injuries and stuff like that.
Okay, and then after that, you filled out your medical release form.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see. And I just want to clarify, at the time that you were being issued the warning by Assistant Chief of Police Thomas Metzger, you were already in the process of tackling a police officer. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So just to clarify for the court's records, the reason that you did not immediately comply is because you were previously occupied with tackling a police officer.
I mean, like he stated himself. Now repeat it, and I agree with this. That as soon as I stood up, I got shot. So like he saw that I was down on the ground, incapable of doing anything.
Okay.
I was also being tased and tackled by Ripley.
All right. And just one final line of questioning. Mr. Rodriguez, do you make it a habit of stopping and intervening in police situations when you notice one of your friends are being taken into custody?
No, not really.
Okay, so this is a
I mean,
one-off instance then.
I mean, it depends. Like I know Wei Wang, right? He's a good. How do I say it? He's a recurring customer to a lot of my business, right? He buys food for me. I cook. He comes down to the drift school. I'm a drifting instructor. You know, I talk to him every time I see him around. You know, say, hey, how you doing, and stuff like that.
Okay, so only when it's one of your closer friends or business associates then. So if Mr. Mercer were being apprehended by police, would you begin tackling police officers on his behalf?
Yeah, I would. What? He's a good friend of mine, you know?
Okay, okay. So you would in fact do this again then?
I mean, everything is situational, correct? Like, you know, if there's a bunch of police holding guns to him.
Okay, I think that's a yes or no answer, Mr. Rodriguez. Yes or
Actually,
no?
I think
Your
it's
Honor,
like
I am.
situational.
I actually
you know?
want to know. I actually want to know. Yes or no?
It depends on
No,
the
don't tell me
scenario,
it
you know?
depends. Don't tell me it depends. Yes or no?
Like, I would, but, you know, it just
Okay,
depends.
then
Like,
that would be a
what
yes.
type of
Okay,
scenario
thank you.
he's in, you know?
All right.
I've got no further questions, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez.
Just a few for redirect. Do you know approximately when you were marked as gang affiliated?
When I was?
Yeah, do you know approximately when that happened?
No, I don't. But I mean, they marked me gang affiliated when I was getting shot at, and I returned fired on, like, my own street, so I don't know.
Do you recall if you were marked as gang affiliated before or after the incident that we're talking
That's
about today?
after.
Understood. Have you ever had a conversation with Thomas Metzger about you being gang affiliated?
No, I had, like, 2 minutes to talk to him, and that's it. He said I shouldn't be tackling police. I asked him why he shot me. He said he tackled police, and that was it, and he left.
Understood, and that was the only reason given?
Yeah.
Understood. I believe that's everything for the redirect. Thank you.
Right. Do you want to recall this witness? You can step down. My team.
No,
Step
Your
down.
Honor.
It's flat surface.
Believe we got everything we needed out of Mr. Rodriguez.
All right.
May I ask, would a recess be possible before defense?
I need to go very soon, so I would ask that we wrap this up if possible.
Yes. You're the last one to be called. Can't you just take a recess like right after this?
Yeah,
I
fine.
mean,
It can wait. Yeah.
Just let him do his testimony, and then you'll get a nice recess for closing and whatnot.
Understood.
All right. Metzger, I think you're up. Oh, does the plaintiff rest?
Not the continent. The you're up.
Yes, the plaintiff rests, Your Honor.
Okay. Defense, your turn.
Your Honor, we would call Assistant Chief of Police Thomas Metzger to the stand for a brief line of direct questioning.
All right. Okay. You already sworn in, so you're good.
All right. I don't have a whole lot left for you, Metzger. I do have a couple of questions though about this 20-foot rule. Have you previously implemented the use of this while in the field?
Yes.
Okay. Have you previously failed to implement this and it backfired on you?
Yes, I've definitely been either assaulted and battered, or somebody attempted to murder me before because of the 20-foot rule.
Okay. Could you give us any particular examples?
I've been stuck in an alleyway on Grove Street before. I can't remember the individual, but closed the distance and essentially beat me with my firearm in my hand. I've had a similar incident with Mr. Chips Ahoy in front of Pillbox, where he was, I believe, methed out and ran directly at me with a knife and stabbed me. And he was approximately 20 or so feet away from me at the time of the incident occurring.
All right. And you previously testified you're the one who actually had a large part in writing the SOPs. Is there what's the practical reason for that 20-foot rule?
I think I stated it earlier, but basically, it takes the time it takes for me to draw a weapon or fire a weapon in that distance is about the same or more that it takes for you to close the distance with me and actually reach me.
Okay. So, based on your training and experience, would you say that 20-foot rule exists for the purposes of maintaining officer safety?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I've got no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Cross.
One moment, please. Hello, Mr. Metzger.
Hello again.
Do you think it's you mentioned something about being in an alleyway and the 20-foot rule? Do you think the 20-foot rule applies equally in an alleyway as it does in an open sort of area?
Yeah, 20 feet is 20 feet. Yes.
So you would say you treat those two situations identically?
I mean, the 20-foot rule exists for a reason. Yeah.
Understood. I'm just perhaps would you not believe there to be different tactics that could be used in a more open area as opposed to a more enclosed area like an alley that perhaps could have been used?
Do you understand how straight lines work, sir?
I would have prefer if you answered the question.
Yes, please answer the
A straight line is a
question.
straight line. It applies in whatever terrain you're in.
So there are no tactical advantages to being in an open area versus being in a closed alley. Is that your opinion as a tenured police officer?
I'm just trying to understand what you're actually asking.
So when you were asked about your experiences, you mentioned 20-foot rule within an alley. I'm asking, are there no other?
In the same sentence, I brought up being in a completely open street and having it also, be there for a reason. So no.
And you believe they're comparable?
Yeah, they're absolutely comparable. 20 feet is 20 feet. Doesn't matter if I'm in an open street or in an alleyway or in a house. Or right here, you're within my 20-foot bubble. You can close the distance generally as quickly as I can draw and use a taser or weapon against you.
Understood. Speaking of drawing a weapon, did you have the weapon drawn as soon as you left the car?
I wasn't in a vehicle.
Objection, Your Honor, scope.
I would only note that the question was answered mid-objection, so I suppose I'll leave it to you, Your Honor.
Yeah, he did answer it very quickly. I'm going to overrule. We're going to continue.
Would it be possible to repeat the answer, as I didn't catch it due to the objection?
I said I wasn't in a vehicle.
Wait, so his rebuttal is that my objection came out too late, but also that my objection overpowered the answer. I'm confused, Your Honor.
I heard the answer. That's all that matters. Did you get the answer?
I did not, Your Honor.
Okay, continue on. I got it.
Understood. I believe that would be all for the cross. Thank you.
I've got no redirect on that, Your Honor.
All right, you can step down. Thank you, Metzger, for coming out. Good luck. Recess, closing statements coming in.
May I ask for the recess to be 10 minutes or so?
It'll be however long I feel like letting it be.
I understood, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right.
Considered representing myself here.
All right, guys.
PA said
Hey,
no.
are we ready? I'm ready. Let's get this closing on. Plaintiff, closing statement.
Indeed. Just finishing touch done now. Ready when you are, Your Honor.
Yeah, give it to me. Closing statement.
Yes, sir. Thank you all for bearing with me through my first court case. Today we have heard the case of my client, Mr. Rodriguez, who was shot by Assistant Chief Thomas Metzger while he did not have a weapon in his hands. We have heard how Assistant Chief Thomas Metzger used lethal force in a response to unarmed tackling. From Metzger's own testimony, unarmed tackling can fall as low as force level 3, whereas lethal force falls under force level 5.
Objection as to misstatement of testimony, both on the description of unarmed tackling, simply because he wasn't brandishing the firearm doesn't make him unarmed. In addition to the description of it falling as low as level 3, that's a misstatement of the actual answer, which was 3 to 5.
My rebuttal would be that the act of tackling itself was done while unarmed, thus the description of unarmed tackling is accurate. And stating it can be as low as 3, doesn't mean it can't be as high as 5. It's just, it can be as low as 3 from Metzger himself.
Okay. I'll allow you to continue, but I am going to scratch out from the record unarmed tackling. Just because you don't have a gun out doesn't mean you are unarmed. But I
Understood.
am going to let the second statement of lowest force level 3 to slide on through. Please
I
continue.
understand.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And as mentioned, that would be an increase in level of force by 2. Now, we know that the ruling by Coyote in the civil case Romeo Roman versus LSPD on the 28th of May this year sided with the police because the police response increased by 1 level of force from beanbag shotgun to firearm. As such, these cases are not directly comparable. We can also consider Assistant Chief Thomas Metzger's actions from an objective reasonableness test, as per Graham v. Connor, as mentioned in the docket, which can be summarized as given the facts known at the time and an understanding that decisions are made in a split second, would a similarly trained and experienced officer respond in a similar fashion? It is our belief that the answer is no. This is supported by the behavior of the other officer on scene, who made the decision to increase his level of force by 1 rather than 2, unlike Metzger. It's also worth noting that Officer Ridley had been on scene even longer than Metzger and hadn't chosen to draw his firearm despite being outnumbered. This further implies that Mr. Metzger's behavior was excessive, especially when compared to Ridley. There has also been some attempt to claim that Mr. Rodriguez's criminal record allows police officers to assume he's armed at all times, but it's worth remembering Mr. Metzger didn't know who Mr. Rodriguez was at the time. He had never encountered him, as confirmed in testimony on both fronts. Besides,
I can't hear him talking anymore. Can anyone else?
how about now?
Yeah, I hear you now.
I'm not sure what happened there. My apologies. What did you last hear? Okay,
yeah.
fine. Understood.
Talking about just start off from like when the criminal record can be used, whatever the hell you said there. Start from there.
Yep. So there has been some attempt to claim that Mr. Rodriguez's criminal record allows police officers to assume he's armed at all times, thus justifying police officers to act as though he has a gun in hand at all times. I'm sure this can be seen as a slippery slope it is, and the crutch it could become for any gung-ho police officers. Besides, it's worth remembering that through testimony, it was determined that Mr. Metzger and Mr. Rodriguez did not know each other prior to this incident. Mr. Metzger would have no idea of the particulars of Mr. Rodriguez's criminal record, any kind of tag of gang affiliation. And so he cannot claim that to be part of his decision-making. There's also been some kind of odd attempt to claim that Mr. Rodriguez was involved in some kind of robbery, which again is not substantiated by any criminal charges he received or any kind of real evidence. Just some gut feelings from one police officer. We also believe that the 20-foot rule, that using that as some kind of defense doesn't really apply, since Assistant Chief Thomas Metzger had his gun drawn as soon as he was out the car. He didn't have to wait to draw the weapon. He already had it out. So he could have chosen to have a taser out immediately, but he chose not to. It's also worth remembering that Mr. Rodriguez, with his, as discussed, criminal record, history of interactions with police, finds this particular instance excessive rather than all the others he's experienced during his time. It's an indication that something's amiss, as can be indicated by 2 levels of force. And I believe that will be it for the closing statement, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Crane. Closing, please.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm going to go ahead and apologize in advance. You know how long I like to do these things. All right. Thank you, Your Honor, and the people of the court. This is a matter which has previously been decided by this court in large part, with a few minor details shifted around and perhaps the necessary addition of a new case law clarifying those new details. In Ramiel Rahman versus the Los Santos Police Department et al., a case which I was plaintiff's counsel on, the plaintiff Ramiel Rahman, much like the plaintiff seems to assert today, was using less than lethal force against police officers. The plaintiff of that case shot police officers with a beanbag shotgun, a weapon this court is very familiar with insofar as the lethal or non-lethal capacity is concerned. The plaintiff fired upon police officers, entered his vehicle, fled, crashed out, exited the vehicle, and continued to fire upon police officers with the beanbag shotgun when he got out. The plaintiff in El Rahman versus the LSPD was met with lethal gunfire from police-issued firearms, force considered by this court to be justified pursuant to Justice Coyote's ruling that the police may not only meet the level of force that they're faced with, but they may exceed it. In the instant case, Plaintiff Rodriguez committed and pled guilty to the crime of assault and battery. Using his body as a weapon, he knocked police officers to the ground, rendering them into a prone and vulnerable position as he knocked them into concrete, downstairs, and essentially all over the area there. The plaintiff weakly attempts to distinguish his actions from that of Mr. El Rahman, but the practical effect of those actions is exactly the same. As this court knows, a beanbag shotgun knocks an individual to the ground, winding them, leaving them without breath and requiring them several seconds to recuperate. Similarly, slamming your body against an individual or tackling them leaves that individual knocked prone to the ground or downstairs. Similarly, in an act of physical force, which not only causes the officers to incur minor injury, but as testified by my client today, it more importantly leaves them in a prone and vulnerable position for further attack. As stated by the plaintiff himself while he was on the stand, they outnumbered Officer Ridley 2-1 that day, and they very well could have hurt him if they wanted to. We have heard testimony today as to the professional experience of police officers, as well as the force matrix which is available. We have heard that this is not a simple calculation, but rather it is one which takes into account all factors of a situation, including the area that they are in, the number of suspects or assailants, the proximity of those assailants to officers, and a myriad of other factors, all within seconds, while deliberating on the lives and the safety of officers and the general public. While in an optimal world, the police would be able to perform their duties in a Batman-like fashion, securing individuals wholesale without the use of lethal force and tying them up with ropes and hanging them in front of MRPD with no one being harmed. The unfortunate fact is that we do not live in a comic book universe, and the next step up from what was done by the plaintiff is the use of lethal force for the safety of officers and others. Pursuant to Tennessee v. Garner, under the Fourth Amendment, a police officer may use deadly force against a suspect if the officer has a good faith belief that the suspect poses a risk of death or physical injury to the officers or others. Pursuant to Graham v. O'Connor, introduced by the plaintiffs, the reasonableness inquiry must be considered from the objective standpoint to the facts available to the officer at the time. Further, in determining the reasonableness of force, this court must grant an allowance for the officers for the fact that they are often forced to make split-second decisions about the amount of force which is necessary under a particular situation. Now let's look at this case. On December 5th, 2020, officers were met with Plaintiff Rodriguez tackling officers and knocking them prone downstairs. Based upon information publicly available about the plaintiff, he is known to be frequently armed with illegal firearms. Crimes he has committed 37 or more times, 33 counts of possession of a Class 1 and 4 counts of possession of a Class 2. Further, he is known to be dangerous in these situations, having attempted to kill 1 or more government employees on 8 prior occasions, and having committed the crime of assault with a deadly weapon 11 prior times. The plaintiff is flagged as violent and gang-affiliated in his MDT profile, painting the picture of a dangerous criminal. This individual, having been witnessed talking to, having been ordered to cease and desist, But his excuse was that he was already tackling a police officer at the time that he was issued the commands. As we have heard today, officers issued orders to Mr. Rodriguez to cease and desist these attacks upon the persons of police officers, but rather than heed these warnings, he continued to assault and batter Officer Ridley, knocking him prone once again while being ordered to stop. And let us not ignore the alleged pain and suffering undergone by Mr. Rodriguez, claimed by plaintiffs in their statement of claim. The man who, within hours of this incident, robbed a bank truck. Within a week of this incident, was gained a gang affiliation tag for one, and participated in several shootouts, pleading guilty to gang-related shootings. A man with a criminal record longer than a CVS receipt, whose criminal activity did not slow down, asks this court for damages for pain and suffering out of a gunshot wound. This case is nothing more than a farce. Under the objectively reasonable standard and with allowance under Graham v. O'Connor for split-second decisions made by police officers, the use of deadly force was justified. And as determined by Assistant Chief of Police Thomas Metzger, who literally wrote the book on it, any other ruling would allow criminals to run around tackling officers continually, knocking them prone, opening them to attack, and not allow the officers to properly respond until a weapon had already been drawn on them, until they were already potentially under attack, being executed with a concealed knife or a baseball bat, or a firearm, or perhaps a simple boot to the head. We request that this court deny the plaintiff's statement of claim wholesale and find for the defendant on these grounds. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Closing statements in. I will go back and deliberate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is everybody here that needs to be?
I believe so, Your Honor.
Great. First, I want to start by saying that on the surface, when you look at this case, Metzger did some dog shit. I mean, fucking gathered a man down. He ain't posed no threat to nobody. Didn't have a gun out. Yeah, 100%. If it was that simple, Metzger, you'd be criminally indicted right now. As such, and I think you can concur that if any other officer did the shit and just on a blanket surface gunned a man down for tackling somebody, yeah, he should be. I think you would concur with that without any real context as to why that man was shot down in the first place. Okay. But that's not the case here. That's where we're at. Okay. But with the testimonies that were offered here today, I want to start off with the biggest highlights in this case for B. Martin getting on the stand and admitting that he tackled the officers and could have easily hurt him. Officers, cops in the city, they have a duty to prevent such actions. Okay, first off, let's be real here. Not only that, you had already been engaged and you were helping. You saw your friends. They were trying to get away from the cops. You decided to help. That was something that you admitted here on the stand. As in, you didn't directly say yes, but when posed that question, you said, "Yeah, I would," and then went on to say pending circumstances. But the fact of the matter is, you would. Okay. Not only that, to the medical reports, you had already been someone who was trying to help, and you were tased 3 prior times. 3 times you got up and tried to help. So less than lethal force. That's what the medical reports say. I swear to God, you interrupt me again, you already got 200 months, $10,000 fine. I'll give you another 200 and another $10,000 fine. You interrupt me again. So 3 prior times to that. And then, from what I can make of it, Metzger showed up on scene and then warned you to stop doing what you were doing, which he didn't have to do, but he did, going above and beyond to give you that fair chance to stop what you were doing before you were shot and put down, and you chose not to. Give me a second to look at my points here. Not only that, you were tackling Ridley, and it could be said it was multiple times because of the witness or the testimony that Metzger offered, into which Ridley was trying to speak on comms, and comms were broken due to the fact that he was obviously being attacked. Metzger gets on scene. Metzger gets on scene and is faced with a choice. And an officer's duty is to handle and get a hold of the situation as best as they can. And again, with him yelling out, "Stop or you will be shot," again, is another step in which he tried to make sure that you had a fair chance to stop and cease what you were doing. And forcing and for after that being said, you forced Metzger to make do on his warning, and so he shot you. As far as pain and suffering goes, yes, you were seen robbing the truck 14 hours later. With that being said, that's going to be all my notes that I have, the highlights of this case, from what I picked up. There will be no damages. There will be no money awarded to you, Mr. Rodriguez. I suggest that you choose a different line of different line of work, and how the way you help people. If you have questions, I'll take your questions after the case. But with that being said, there will be no compensation awarded to you today. My verdict being rendered, judgment I feel is sound. This case is going to be adjourned. Thank you all.